Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry. Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Why does media coverage matter? Media coverage of you, of me, of our events, or media coverage of some pretty bad people. Why does it matter? Well, it matters because literally tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Americans and billions of people around the world are affected by what they see and hear in the news. Media coverage should be critical to every Christian because it is really and truly one of the only ways that we can get our message out to the masses. And it's also one of the only ways that bad people can get their message out to the masses. And so my wife says frequently, look, the media is a tool. It's like a hammer. A hammer is not intrinsically good. A hammer is not intrinsically evil. A hammer can be used to build. A hammer can be used to harm someone. It's a tool. I know that there's a lot of Christians that think that the media is evil. Well, first of all, I've been in the public square for 30 years. I have been interviewed by hundreds and hundreds of people in television, radio, and newspaper. And I can honestly tell you, some of them are not good people, but there's a lot of them who are good people. There's a lot of Christians in the media realm. But they're trained, whether they're with us in their heart or against us in their heart, they're trained to present a story. They're trained to deliver the goods to the viewer or to the reader or to the hearer, to deliver the goods that we give them. And I think that one of the reasons that so many Christians think that the media is evil is not necessarily because they're evil. And I'm not talking about people like Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. I mean, she's obviously got an agenda. I'm not talking about people like her. She's a commentator. But I think that one of the reasons that so many American Christians think that the media is evil is because the bad guys, the left-wingers, the baby killers, the advocates for so-called homosexual marriage, they're just better at using the tool than we are. They've learned how to use the hammer, and they keep dropping it on us. And so if we want to use the hammer, then we simply have to learn how to use the tool. Now, I know that there are members of the media, some of whom will watch this, or some of our friends go unnamed, and they might take affront at this. But the simple fact of the matter is that the media beast must be fed, all right? The 24-hour news cycle for CNN, Fox, CNBC, MSNBC, and these other networks, they've got to have content. They've got to have news. Your local paper has to have something on the front cover. It's got to have something in the local page. It's a beast that must be fed, all right? So sometimes in movies or in dramas on television, you'll see somebody make the tongue-in-cheek comment, well, it's time to feed the beast. And that parlance, those words, are used every day in the media world. It really is a beast that must be fed. It really, therefore, is a tool at the disposal of people who want to feed the beast, who want to give the media something to cover, who have an event worth covering, who have a message worth hearing, and who do what they do and say what they say in a timely fashion. They do what they do and they say what they say at a moment when it's germane to the discussion at hand. In other words, if you want to do an event right now and get media coverage, you could do it on two things and be 90% sure that you're going to get coverage in your local community. One, border control, the southern border. Two is the CIA and the NSA and all of the alphabet soup of our federal government spying on us. If you want to get media coverage for a message of justice, of liberty, you have to be timely. It's got to be what's going on at that moment. But before I go and show you how to do a press release, which I'm going to do, and how to speak in sound bites, which I'm going to do, how to have an event, I'm going to do all that. I want you to get it settled in your mind. Media coverage matters because the truth has within it the seeds of its own victory. Lies have within them the seeds of their own destruction. But if people who are promoting lies and immorality are using the tool better and more frequently and with more pizzazz than we are, we can expect to be losing the debate publicly. And one other reason it matters is because, and I say this half in jest, but the message is good. If the media didn't cover it, it didn't happen. You want to be covered because what you believe, what you stand for, and what you are saying are relevant in time, in human lives, and in eternity. So we know that God's got a good record of it for the day of judgment, but we want a good record here. We want a good prophetic voice here. We want to be able to take that tool, the hammer, and drop it here. I'll teach you how in the rest of the show. If you own a business and would like to advertise on our program, please contact us. We are currently seen on over 130 television stations from coast to coast. We air at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then all times are local. We have a lot of reach, friend, and this is an opportunity at a great price for you to get your product or your service in front of hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. Also, if there's something that's important to you and you'd like to have a month where you just say thank you to this ministry or promote a certain ministry or a certain cause, contact us. Our rates are incredibly affordable. You'd be surprised. And you, again, can reach into hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of homes. We're currently seen possibly in over 30 million homes. So give us a call, give us an email, and we'll put a commercial up for you. What is a soundbite? A soundbite is a concise and cohesive string of words that conveys a message quickly, with impact, that gets your message out. So part of interfacing with the media requires that we discipline ourselves and learn to speak in soundbites. When you are interviewed by the press, I have two really simple bits of advice for you. Number one, be concise, or don't ramble, to put it negatively. And number two, stay on message, or said a little bit differently, answer the questions that help you and ignore the questions that would try and drag you down some miry path. For example, if a press person says to you, "Isn't your presence here a threat to all American women?" You do not answer the question, "Our presence here is not a threat to American women," because then the headline is, "John Smith denies his presence is a threat to American women." If someone says, "Isn't your threat here, or your presence here a threat to American women?" you just stay on point. And you say, "We are here today to speak up for all unborn babies, male and female. And half of the babies killed in the womb are females." So for someone to say that they're pro-woman while they're killing women, they are hypocrites. There's your soundbite. Now, let me play a few soundbites for you of some press stuff that I've done in the past so you can get a feel for it, right? This is from CNN.
If you've been following the story, you may have noticed a familiar name and a face at some of the news conferences for Terri Schiavo's parents. His name is Randall Terry, and Rudy Bakhtiar went in depth on his story to bring you an angle you won't see anywhere else.
Randall Terry is back at the mic.
Here's the supporting documents for those in favor of life and justice.
the man once famous for throwing his body in front of abortion clinics, is now on stage outside of a new clinic, the hospice housing Terry Schiavo.
But originally they got me involved because they knew that I was kind of a lightning rod and that me even coming would help jumpstart things. So that was a part of a larger piece that CNN did on me. But even at the end there, why are you here, Mr. Terry? Why did they contact you? Bang. The family knew I was a lightning rod. They called me here to jumpstart things. And that is why Terry Schiavo's horrific murder and her plight became international news. Because I knew what I was doing, utilizing the press. All right, here is a soundbite where we look at judges and how that so many of the ills that are plaguing America are coming not from our elected officials, certainly not from the voters, but coming from judges. Whether it has to do with child pornography on the internet, or the Pledge of Allegiance having under God in it, or the Ten Commandments in Alabama, or homosexual marriage in Massachusetts or Vermont. Where do all these things come from? Judges. On point, quick, concise, 10, 12 seconds. If you ramble and you go all over the place, they don't have the time at their disposal for an evening news broadcast. Let's go to this clip. She is in the agonizing position of dying of thirst. She's on fire while politicians fiddle. Notice that I did not say her human dignity is being betrayed. My words were intense. My facial expression was intense. She literally was starved to death. She was dehydrated to death. So she's in the agonizing place of dying of thirst. She's on fire while politicians fiddle. That's an allusion, of course, to Nero fiddling while Rome burned. If you can think of a way to communicate your message that has a historic reference or that it's got some good meter in it, it's useful, all right? Now here's one where I politically threaten politicians, especially Republican pro-life politicians. And as it turns out, you may remember that the U.S. Congress actually passed some type of resolution in support of Terry Schiavo living, all right? So it was amazing when you look back at the level of people that got involved, and it's also equally tragic that Jeb Bush, the then governor of Florida, did not have the courage and the integrity to simply intervene when he had the authority to do so. But I digress. So here's a soundbite for Republicans. If she dies, there is going to be hell to pay with the pro-life, pro-family, Republican people of various legislative levels, statewide and federal-wide, who have used pro-life, pro-family, conservative rhetoric to get into power, and then when they have that power, they refuse to use it. Notice that I did not equivocate. If you equivocate in your interviews, or if you try and argue both sides, then you're not defending your position clearly, and you're not interesting. And if you're not interesting, and if you're equivocating, you're probably not going to get covered. So be the advocate for your position that you're supposed to be, and leave the other side to their own machinations. And finally, what I want to do is play an audio clip from an interview that I did with Sean Hannity on his radio show. And I want you to see that in this segment, if you're covered on live radio, you've got talk radio in your town, you don't have to speak in quite as clipped of sound bites. If you've got a 2 or 3 or 6 minute interview, you can develop your argument a little bit more, as I will show you in this example.
But Randall, apparently you're right up there with radicals that are involved in jihad and murder.
Well, I guess I'm a little bewildered at that comparison, but the fact is this. We tore pages out of the Quran that called for us to be crucified, to be beheaded, to be murdered, to be banished, and to be imprisoned. Now, again, these are passages in Surah chapter 5, Surah chapter 8, Surah chapter 47. People can read them. People can Google that press release we sent out that tells the chapter. Read chapter 5. Just read chapter 5 of the Quran.
The backstory there is that we had done a series of events around the country where we were tearing up passages, big sheets of paper that had passages from the Quran that called for Christians and Jews and infidels to be murdered. And again, we did not equivocate. We spoke, we were covered, and we helped in our mission to show that historic Islam is an inherent threat to Christian liberty, as the blood of Christian martyrs throughout the Middle East will testify. So these are examples of sound bites. You can go to our website, voiceofresistance.com. You can see a lot more examples there. And in the next segment, we're going to discuss press releases. So if you want to know how to do a press release, how to write one, stay with me. Then maybe you'll get coverage and your voice will be heard. Friend, this program is supported by friends like you who believe in what we are doing. We run a very tight ship. Thankfully, we are on over 130 stations across the country, having tremendous impact. We get emails every day. We get letters in the mail, not every day, but almost every day. We hear from people who love what we're doing. What people don't understand is that it's sort of expensive to produce a television show like this. It doesn't require earth-shattering funds, but it does require financial help. So I am asking you, if you enjoy this program, throw us a $10 or a $20 bill every once in a while, or even a $50 or a $100 check. You see the address there on the screen. Your gifts are not tax deductible, by the way, because we want to be able to say what we want to say regarding politics without the IRS telling us no. So if you like the program, I ask for your support. A press release. Does that sound intimidating? Does it sound snazzy? Does it sound like insider baseball? The phrase press release is an insider baseball way of saying an invitation to the press to come and to cover your event or to quote you in the news if you send out a press release with a comment. It's an invitation. There are a lot of Christians who complain that the press didn't cover their event. Well, my question is, did you send them an invitation in the way that they're accustomed to getting it? Like we get birthday invitations, right? Or we get an invitation to a wedding. You expect it to look a certain way. If someone invites you to a wedding by writing it in chalk in the street in front of your house, you might not get the message. You might not go to the wedding, all right? So I'm teaching you how to do a press release so that you can send this invitation to the press in a manner in which they're used to getting it and so that they respond. You're seeing a press release when I ran for president against Obama in the Democratic primary. So right at the top, it tells the story. Randall Terry, nationally known pro-life leader, announces Democratic primary run against President Obama. Then a little subheading. Mr. Terry vows to run pro-life ad in Super Bowl 2012, which we did in several markets. Then there's a press conference, okay? The city, Washington, D.C., the press conference was to be held Thursday, January 20th, where it was in front of the Holocaust Museum, right? There's a contact name and a contact phone number. And we got a ton of coverage. So this was the invitation to the press that they're used to getting. It was cohesive, it was concise, and they came out and they covered it. Notice that I had a couple of quotes in there. Rabbi Yehud Levin from New York City had a couple of quotes. It went really well. All right, let's look at this one. We fought tooth and nail against Rudy Giuliani when he was running for president, and we helped derail his nomination. We helped derail his campaign in Florida. Every single stop that he went to, we had pro-lifers there with bullhorns decrying him as a fake Republican. And his numbers in Florida plummeted like a rock because we were getting covered in every city that he went to saying he was a phony, that he was a fake. So there at the top, so-called pro-life Republicans are endorsing Rudy. We said that this is a trial, or that the pro-life Republicans are on trial to see what we value more, life or power, principle or party. Again, we see my name as the contact person. There's a phone number. We have a media advisory that was sent out There's the when, there's the where, there's the what. And again, you can go to our website and you can study these. All right, we'll have a bunch of examples for you there. If you'll just follow this template, this invitation, you'll get covered. And one last thing, when we come back from this break, I'm going to explain to you sometimes why we don't get covered. And we whine about it, but it's really simple. It's called predictable, boring. Don't go away. I want to invite you to go to our website. Almost every book that I have ever written is available as a PDF online for free. We have a ton of products, training materials, tools that are available for you for free. All we ask for is that you give us your email address. That's it, so that we can stay in touch with you and, yes, from time to time, ask you to support this work. So I'm inviting you, go to the website. Now, for those of you who say, well, I don't want a PDF, I want a real book. You can get one of my books. All you have to do is pay for shipping and handling and then give whatever gift you want. And if you can't afford anything, we'll send you the book for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Why are we doing all this? Because we want to change the direction of the country and we need to raise up a fresh generation of warriors to do that. That's why we have this tool. I invite you, go to the website, see for yourself. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years. And sadly, we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. If you want to be covered, what you do and say has to be interesting. It has to be worthy of coverage. For example, very rarely does the press cover a sunrise, but they're always going to cover an eclipse. It's rare. It's different. I mean, in the Bible, there's not an awful lot in there about sunrises, but when the sun stood still, right? When the sundial went backwards, those events are in the Bible. So, for example, there's a lot of people who complain that the March for Life in Washington, D.C., year after year, gets so little coverage, sometimes no coverage in major media. Well, it's like the sunrise. It happens every year. People come, they march, there's a few speeches made. There's no big protest. There's nothing unusual. It's lost its sizzle. So if you're going to want to be heard, if you want to be heard, then you've got to do and say something that sticks out. Have your rhetoric be cutting. Have your words have punch. And if you're going to do some street theater, like some of the footage you see here, you'll stand a better chance of getting covered. All right? We did the Kill Granny tour, and these images were seen by millions of people all over the country because we said, look, Obamacare ultimately is going to be involved in pulling the plug on elderly people to save money. So we called it the Kill Granny tour. And we got an enormous amount of coverage. Some of these other clips that you see, a lot of street theater to prove a point. For example, us being on the socialist plantation, or the government forcing us to give up our money so that we would kill babies with that money. Whatever it is that you want to be heard on, your rhetoric has to be concise, it has to be a little bit edgy, and if you've got visuals, they need to be interesting, all right? A dog biting a man, it's probably not news. A man biting a dog, that's news. So use some creativity. Look at the examples at our website. Go there and look. You could spend 2-3 hours getting a good education about press conferences, press activities, things worthy of press coverage, how to get a press release, how to speak in a soundbite, and maybe you could be a part of the voice of resistance.